Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nest Owlet Tournaments Analyst Show. And I am your host, Rainbow, and with me tonight is Edix from Dice Rolls.
Hello.
And Sloth from Velocity University.
What's up?
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining me tonight. They will be here to talk about the Majors Division, and we have some lovely guests over in the Minors Division that will be joining us later. Just to start off with some kind of announcements, playoffs are coming up, and it's going to be the top 5 teams from each division will be proceeding into playoffs. We're just going to be doing a regular bracket, with 4 and 5 facing off, and then kind of going to the rest of the general bracket format. Roster size and ringer rules will remain the same as the regular season, and more information on that will be coming soon. And then moving on to the actual stuff going on in Majors. So just some kind of important things going on. That kind of what also we'll kind of talk to Edix about, but Milk is now officially off of Bench Boys, is their main tank player, and is now joining Dice Rolls. So, Edix, do you kind of have any more information about that, or what role Milk's going to be playing on your guys' team?
Right. So Milk did come over to our team after we had discussions about it maybe about a week before, and we have a lot of tank players on Dice Rolls. We have Cullywog testing, Paper Sore is on main support for us right now, but does also play tank, and now Milk joining the squad. He helps fill a lot of depth at the tank role that we were sort of lacking, especially in a communications perspective. I don't have much more information on that right now that I'm willing to share, but that's pretty much where we're at with that.
Cool. Thank you. And so we're not going to kind of get into the portion where we talk about some important matches that happened last week. I think to get started off with, let's talk about one of the more recent ones, Velocity University getting a 3-1 over TMP. Is really good, 'cause I think a lot of people weren't expecting them to win that. They are lower in the rankings than Tempest. And yeah, I hear you guys were also having roster issues during that game. You're still able to pull out a win.
That is correct. Yes. We did have 2 main tanks. Quack, he was out, our main off tank. We had 2 main tanks, Kevin and Dave. Fortunately, Dave did happen to have some Zarya history, so we slapped him on that role. And besides that, we were just kind of hoping Kevin can clutch up, which he did. So proud of him.
But yeah, so what are kind of some other interesting ones? Because I have a few in mind. I'm curious what your guys' take on some of the interesting matches from last week.
There was a very interesting match with Dice Rolls and Crusaders, because on paper that was a rank 2 versus rank 3 matchup, and it absolutely went the distance. I don't think it was streamed, but at the end, map 5, there was a little bit of instability issues, just a few fat fingers on the side of Crusaders that ended up giving our team Dice Rolls the edge. But it was a really, really close map, or a close match, and they absolutely took it to us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been showing some really great endurance in your matches, going to plenty of map 5s. So you guys do seem to be able to close out those matches really well. Although you guys are kind of shaky throughout, because it's not those solid 3-0s. Keeping it interesting for us over here. I think another one I would like to highlight is Crusaders getting a 3-1 over Bandicoots, which I think is mainly interesting because Milk, who was on Bench Boys, went and rang 4 Bandicoots in that game, but wasn't able to kind of help carry them to a win. So I just think that one was kind of interesting because of all the stuff going on with Milk changing teams. I mean, it was generally expected to go to Crusaders, but I think
you go ahead, Sloth.
All right. I was actually looking at I was going to talk about Crusaders and Bandicoots just now, because we do have a match coming up against Bandicoots pretty soon, and we have a pretty good history with Crusaders. We faced them twice. We got 3-1 as well. So I'm hoping, if my brain is big, that Bandicoots is around the same skill level as us. So we might be able to actually pull it through and hopefully make playoffs. I might be getting a little ahead though because we're not there yet. But yeah.
I think Bandit Coots is actually a lot stronger than most people give them credit for. They did have 2 ringers for the game against Crusaders. Milk was one of the ringers, and honestly, he just kind of wanted to play in for Bandit Coots, so he did that, and it was like all good fun for him. But I do think Bandit Coots they were at a little bit of a disadvantage against Crusaders, and I did have them like in my mind at a higher rank going into that match. And I still think that they would have the edge over Crusaders playing full roster. The coaching on the side of Bandicoots is really good. And I think they will figure out more of their play styles and how to win as the season goes on. Definitely not a team to sleep on.
Got it. But yeah, so I think you kind of discussed what we can from the majors matches last week. Overall, nothing too exciting. But so now let's kind of look into where these teams stand right now. Looking at the standings chart we have here. So kind of coming into this, we have those 2 at the top, Bench Boys and Dice Rolls, who have clinched their playoff spots. They cannot fall out of playoffs, even if they straight lose 0-3s and everything. But it's kind of everyone else is a bit in flux there. And things are really close with 2 teams tied here. Bandicoots and Tempest tied at 4th, and Odyssey and Velocity University tied at 6th. But I'm overall, in general, all 4 of those teams are really close. It's -3 map differential down to -5, so I think it's really close. And if you look at the dynamic standings here, we also have Tempest seems to be generally moving up in those standings, whereas Odyssey has been dropping more recently. I mean, do you guys have any other observations you want to point out, the dynamic standings or standings in general?
Right.
I want to talk about. Sorry, Dix. You wanna?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I want to actually talk about the playoffs on how Velocity University is currently tied in 6th place with Odyssey.
Yeah.
So Velocity University's upcoming match tonight, Dice Rolls. I actually haven't done the math on how many maps we have to win or how many games. But I really just need Tempest to kind of toss everything. Same with Odyssey. Like we're going up against Bandicoots. That is a game that we must win, right? But I really just need Tempest and Odyssey to like kind of throw their games. I know Tempest has a very tough schedule coming up. So I'm hoping that'll go in my favor. But as long as Velocity University or my team, us, can win against Bandicoots, I'm pretty sure we have a solid spot on getting at least 5th into playoffs.
So kind of going off of that as well, I think Tempest Esports I casted the Velocity Tempest Esports game, and Tempest has a very slow play style that tends to get punished and capitalized on a lot. So there is potential for them to fall out. If I actually had to pick one of the 3 teams at the bottom to take that number 5 seed from Tempest, it would be Velocity University, just based off of their performances in the past. But they do have a really tough schedule upcoming.
Yeah, I definitely think they can make it in there as well. But so since you guys started talking about upcoming matches, let's kind of move on to that here, and talk about what is interesting coming up, and kind of we'll get into what our predictions are after that. So I definitely think the game you guys talking about Dice Rolls versus Velocity University and Velocity University versus Bandicoots are going to be interesting games just to see how Velocity is going to be able to improve going into this next week.
100%. The game tonight, unfortunately, not being streamed, but it's definitely 100% going to a match 5. This is the rematch for Velocity University. We're looking to win. We just had a whole new comm restructure. We actually had a coach finally, and I think we're pretty solid on this game tonight for sure, 100%.
Right on our side of the ball, we've also had comm restructure. I've been the coach for all the season. We've had a strong coaching staff, and I'm really excited for that matchup coming up tonight. I'm actually also really looking out to see how well Tempest is able to stand up to Bench Boys. I don't expect like a stomp from Tempest, but I do expect I do wonder how well they're actually going to be able to hold up, and that's going to be really important in figuring out is this last spot going to fall, or are they going to be able to hold it?
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about how Velocity kind of has a tough schedule going forward, but Tempest also has an incredibly tough schedule this week. Literally the top two teams. Yeah, I think a couple other interesting ones to look out for is Bandicoots and Odyssey, because they're right next to each other in those standings. So that could be an interesting one. And Bench Boys and Crusaders, the first and third team. Bench Boys so far have not lost a single map, but I don't believe they've gone up against either Dice Rolls or Crusaders. So I think this is going to be one of those games where they have the potential to lose those maps. Especially after losing Milk on their roster and some other stuff that's been going on with the team. I think that could just be really interesting to see if anything ends up kind of going wrong for them there. But so let's kind of get into our actual predictions for all these games and see kind of where we differ, where we agree on these matches. So first up, we have Dice Rolls versus Velocity University. Obviously, both you guys are going to be in that game, each voting for your own team. I think it'll go to Dice Rolls. I think that's just kind of a pretty easy pick to make there. I think Velocity has a chance to take a couple maps, especially since it is Dice Rolls. But I think it is going to end up going to you guys. You guys are really great with those map 5s and everything.
I don't know. I don't think it's an easy like say on like, oh yeah, Dice Rolls is just gonna roll Velocity. We did have a scrim a while back. I'm not gonna like base the whole match based off the scrim, but but let's just say the scrim was it was a good scrim. I'll just leave it at that pretty much. But 100% not gonna be a roll on either side unless I actually pop off, and then Dice Rolls gets 3-0.
So so the only thing I'll say on that front is that the way I run my team is I don't really like scrims are not the environment where you play to win, so scrim bucks are like essentially meaningless. So that's all I'll say on that front. I think it's going to be a really good game. Last time it was down to map 5. Obviously, I would like to make it cleaner, make sure that the team's ready to play at like the most optimal level possible. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this rematch. It was really good last time.
Yep, definitely going to be an exciting one. Then we have Tempest versus Bench Boys. All of us kind of swing Bench Boys. We'll just kind of move on that unless one of you has something you want to say.
I just think Tempest isn't going to be able to, even with the roster changes with Bench Boys lately. I just don't think that Tempest is going to be able to manifest like the tempo they need and press the advantages to be able to like actually topple them.
And it's like for me, it's like Bench Boys hasn't dropped a single map. So even if they do even semi-significantly worse, I don't think they will do bad enough to lose. Unless Tempest really brings it and Bench Boys really doesn't, but I think that one, the prediction would have to go to Bench Boys there. Then moving on to Bandicoots versus Odyssey. We did all go Bandicoots, although I think there's a chance for Odyssey to bring it. I think I'm going Bandicoots on that one.
Bandicoots is a really solid team.
Yeah.
Okay, so on there it does say Bandicoots, but if I can, I'd actually swap it right now to Odyssey, just because Bandicoots is higher up on the standing, and if Odyssey wins, it'll bring them up, and then I'm pretty sure we can win Odyssey. I mean, wait, we're not fighting Odyssey. If it brings Bandicoots down, it'll make me feel better about my team going up against Bandicoots in the future. I'd like to vote for Odyssey right now.
So predicting based off of confidence.
Yeah. I think it's possible, so I can't disagree with that too much, even though I do think it's going to go to Bandicoots. Next, we move on to Crusaders versus Commitment. This is the third team versus the 8th team. We all go Crusaders.
Yeah, nothing much to say about that one.
Yeah. Then moving on, Bench Boys versus Crusaders. Both me and Sloth are on Bench Boys. Edict's going Crusaders. Why do you say Crusaders?
I say Crusaders because with the recent changes with Bench Boys, I'm not supremely confident that they're actually able to pull this one out. And Crusaders sitting at the number 3 spot. I think that they have what it takes. They have the fundamental play and talent to be able to take it to bench boys. So I think that if they win this is a bold pick for me. I think that it's like 3-2 at least, or at most. Like I don't think they win at any margin beyond that.
Fair. Moving on to Bandicoots versus Velocity University. Both me and Edix going for Bandicoots. Sloth going for his team over on Velocity University.
Easy game.
Easy game, you say?
Yes, we win. Maybe 3-0. I don't know. I really haven't been scouting at all at the Bandicoots, and they may have been scouting my team, so we might get rolled, or we might roll them, or we just do the map 5 thing again.
Okay, yeah, understandable. We move on to Tempest versus Dice Rolls. Everyone seems to be going Dice Rolls. Edix, just it's your team. Any particular comments about that game?
Yeah, like obviously I know a lot more about Tempest and Velocity because I've watched them play more than most other majors teams. So I think we'll probably be decently well prepared. It'll go to map 5 just because that's what we do. But I think there's plenty to capitalize on in that, and I don't want to talk anybody down, of course, but I just don't see their lack of tempo really hurts them against like when they played against Velocity.
Yeah, and after this, I kind of look at the map differential chart. We're gonna do the last game, but it kind of shows you how Majors is looking a bit more. So Commitment, Odyssey, our last game. We're all going Odyssey. I think it's pretty hard to ever vote for Commitment there because they're just not doing well, as you can see in the map differential graph that was flashed there for half a second. So we can go back to that because I think it shows something interesting. So you don't have a lot of teams doing absolutely horribly in majors, but you have the top teams super spread out in those high numbers, which I just think is kind of interesting. We'll be able to see contrast when we go over and look at the minors division a bit later, but yeah, it's like you have bench boys, it's like 7 down Dice Rolls and then 7 down from that Crusaders. So I think it's a really interesting spread there.
I just want to go back just a little bit here. I'm backtracking, but I did have another team swap after calculating with my 500 IQ brain. I actually am rooting for Commitment against Odyssey. Commitment, any Commitment fans in the chat need to y'all gotta make something happen. Y'all just gotta roll them. You just gotta roll Odyssey. Yeah, because after I calculated it, I'm like, wait, if Odyssey beats Bandicoots, it brings them up. And then if Odyssey just keeps on winning, they get higher and it makes it harder for my team. So I need Commitment to win their second game. They need to pull something together. They need to just absolutely destroy Odyssey. I'm going to be watching that game if it is streamed or just rooting for them.
So you're their temporary fanboy right now.
Temporary for my own selfish needs, yes.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think we've about covered it for majors. Any last points either of you want to make here?
I think that the standings in majors are relatively solidified at top 3. Obviously, with the top 2 teams already have made it to the playoffs and can't fall out. I think Crusaders and Bandicoots are also really solid up there. So I really do think it's coming down to Tempest, Odyssey, and Velocity. It's going to be like the interplay between these 3 teams that really shapes how the first round, like the knockout round of the playoffs, is going to be. And I think the rest is decently like set in stone.
Got it. Sloth, any last things from you?
Just look for major changes, but going from Bandicoots going down to Velocity University. What you see at the 4th and 5th place spot will 100% guaranteed not remain the same. Yeah, that's about it.
Got it. Well, thank you guys for joining us here for this, conversation on the majors division right now. I wish you guys the best of luck in your upcoming games. We are going to throw it to a quick break, should be about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be back with the minors division for you. So make sure to stay tuned in.
Thanks for having us, Rainbow.
Later, people.
gotta keep moving forward. And welcome back. We are back after a short break with the Minors Division. Joining us now is Dark Ember from Talonfire.
Yo.
And Kua from Kraken Skulls.
Hello.
But yeah, so let's kind of just dive right back into the discussion here. So some interesting stuff coming up. Let's just kind of get into last week's matches here, and what we think were some of the important matches. So I think one of the interesting things to point out is Odyssey Esports, different from the Odyssey in Majors Division, not associated whatsoever. Was they joined us and they had a really good opening showing with their 2 3-0s versus Road Warriors and Fire Nation. Not like top tier teams. They're not at the top of the standings, but I think it's still a great initial showing from them.
Yeah, they show that they're not on the bottom tier like my team, but we'll see in the coming matches to come their diversity and their mental toughness as they face the upper echelon teams in the minors division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark?
When Ignis Academy left and Odyssey replaced them, I was hoping that, even though I loved Ignis Academy, I was hoping that we get a team that was better than them to kind of help us, get a little bit more competition in. And we have a bunch of teams that have been at the top for almost the entire time, but it'd be really nice to see Odyssey take over the top 5 spots, whether it's from Velocity Force or from Talonfire. I don't really care which one. It would be nice, or Vote Meme today. I think it'd be nice to see a team that came in late take over.
Yeah, it definitely be impressive, and I think they are trying to do makeup matches with Kraken Skulls and MSBY, who are the 2 that got buys in week 2. So when those happen, they could go even further if they continue to do really well.
Yeah.
My goal is to upset them, so we're like all even. So like to make the 5th seed like map differential. That is my goal coming up in this last week and the last match next week.
Kua trying to keep it exciting for us. But yeah, so some other interesting ones to look at is Velocity Forces matches versus VMT, Vote Meme today, and Talonfire, which are both kind of in that top tier. Velocity Force is generally at the number 2 spot right now. But so getting 3-0s and 3-1s on those teams, so looking pretty dominant at that spot. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I gotta say, playing against them when in the upcoming week or past week, we went in with high hopes, and I mean, it would have been a lot closer if internet didn't die on some people's parts. That was a really fun match, though, when we did play it, even with 3-1 against Velocity Force. And I see Velocity Force possibly getting that top 1 spot if they try hard enough against Hyperion, or even inside playoffs, they, crack it out and just pop off, because they're a really good team, and I'd love to see them go all out.
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible for Velocity Force to do well against Hyperion. As Oakley kind of points out, Velocity Force did lose to Hyperion 3-0, but I believe they were having roster issues. And either way, teams can improve and kind of restructure things and get better as it goes on. So I'm looking forward to that rematch, assuming it happens. Oakley's saying that they also were having roster issues. Oh yeah, so I think that was the game I was thinking of earlier, where both teams were kind of having roster issues there. Either way, I think it'll be interesting to see the rematch and if Velocity Force is able to bring it back. But yeah, going into some other interesting ones, you had MSBY and Kraken Skulls, who going into this week were both winless. At the end of the week, just Kraken Skulls remains winless. So you guys are still kind of at that no-win territory with Road Warriors. But honestly, that was a pretty close match, and then you kind of got to some places like Hanamura was a bit more of a stomp, but you guys were really putting up a fight throughout most of that match, I think.
Yeah, right. Everybody knows King is the prime fire main of all time. And when he just showed his diversity of swapping off Farah, and they really practiced him just in case his Farah got canceled. Because you saw earlier in the season when the higher teams canceled his Farah, they couldn't really run anything that's really good on them for adjusting and King learning and being really good Ashe. And Hanamura was just tough to get in. We couldn't go top because of the Junkrat, and Ashe is shooting through the window with no shield because Hog Zarya is a thing. So man, it was really fun. I enjoyed it, but it was kind of frustrating at the same time.
But yeah, I think overall you guys did a good job of like kind of reading what the enemy team is doing and trying to play against it. So I definitely think you guys have potential going forward, which we'll kind of get a bit more into later. I think we have one more match I wanted to highlight, which is really just Hyperion versus VMT, just kind of those top teams. And VMT just really wasn't able to face up. So they faced the top two teams and took a really hard hit going 0-6. So they're kind of been falling down, and we can take a look at that going into these standings here, and seeing exactly where these teams are sitting. Taking a little bit to get up there, but we will be seeing this soon. Yeah, and so you see that the only team that so far has no chance of getting into the playoffs is Road Warriors. Everyone else apparently has a chance to fall out, which I think is a bit surprising, considering how well Hyperion's been doing. But I didn't do the math. I think it was Arish Gagal who put together all of these standings for us here. But see, yeah, you can kind of see where these teams are. Talonfire did overtake VMT here. Is there anything else want to point out yourselves on these standings?
You can go first.
Okay. Honestly, I was hoping to be able to take the spot from Velocity Force up in that top 3 or 2 when it came to our match, and we could have definitely done it. We put up a really good fight with technical problems. Things went down, but overall, they're a really good team. I mean, everyone's doing well in their own little place, but I think going into these next matches, it's going to be really big, especially for Talonfire and VMT, to see which one stays up there and which one falls out. And with Odyssey, they might just take the spot from both of us. So yeah. Honestly, I'm not really set in stone on how I think of this. I think that everyone can fall out, but at the same time, Hyperion, I think they might be just up there to stay.
Yeah, it is looking like that right now.
I'm doing the math for my team. I'm like, we just get our map differential as low as possible, get some dubs, and see what happens with upsets. To see if either VMT or if Odyssey, we can beat them, make them like minus in map differential since they're even, or other teams to do that. So our team or other lower teams like Black Jackals could move up into the top 5 to make that more interesting.
Yep. If we can move on to the dynamic standings here, because you can kind of see MSVY and Talonfire have generally been more on their way up, whereas Fire Nation and VMT have been trending a bit more downwards in their standings. So there's definitely being some shakeups still in the minors division, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes on further. I also kind of neglected to mention that Koala King's also in that second position right now. They are doing very well. They have some tough matches coming up, but so do Velocity Force. So I think it'll be interesting to see if we see any changes coming there. But yeah, let's take a preview at week 4 here. And are there any matches you guys think are going to be really exciting in the coming week?
I think that VMT versus Talonfire is going to be one of the most hype ones for the entire week, just because of the fact that we're 4 and 5 on the standings.
Yeah, I mean, you just overtook them.
Yeah, we just overtook them. So we could fall out very easily. They're a good team. I've seen them play before, and I mean, Talonfire's a good team too. Not to boast or anything, but I think the match against them tonight is going to be one of the most interesting for our team. because we're fighting for that top 5. Even if we don't get top 3, we don't care about that. We want to stay inside the top 5. You know,
Yeah.
we want to get to those finals again.
Yeah. And that game should be getting casted, so I'm very much excited for that. I'm going to be casting that. We are still looking for a color, but that game should be getting casted either way. So I am definitely still really hyped for that one. The two sets I wanted to point out was I think Odyssey's games are just going to be really interesting going forward. Just because it's a new team, it's always going to be interesting. And then the other one that I wanted to highlight, I am forgetting now, was Koala Kings versus Velocity Force. I mean, these two teams are tied at second, so that's just inherently interesting to see kind of which of these teams is above each other and how that's going to go.
Yeah, but like what I think my thing is the Hyperion games to see which team can upset the top team to make it even more interesting to see like, oh, this team beat the best team that's been dominating so far, and I think both teams have a really great chance and to make something happen, maybe make it a map 5 really long game, and Black Jackals with King on the Pharah to see if Hyperion can shut him down if they can, and Talonfire just to do what Talonfire does and make something huge happen.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
match
sure.
going into Hyperion, like Talonfire versus Hyperion, we're worried about it because like we've seen everything Hyperion's done, and they're like by far the best team in the league, and they have just a really strong roster in every way, shape, and form. But if we can take over their spot and beat them up too, hopefully, we'll have a fun match. I feel, even if we get rolled, because I mean, our team works really well under pressure, and they're a team that just their power level just makes you feel all the pressure.
Yeah. So let's get into the kind of match predictions here from you guys and see where we tend to stand on these. So we do have Black Jackals versus Hyperion. Everyone's kind of leaning Hyperion. Black Jackals, being the very confident team they are, thinks that they will win. But I have to place a bit of doubt. Hyperion's a really good team. Black Jackals is not in the top 5. So I admire their confidence, but I do think it's going to go to Hyperion. Then going on, we have Road Warriors versus Kraken Skulls. Two winless teams facing off. Everyone seems to think it is going to be going towards Kraken Skulls. I know, Kua, obviously you're going that way. You're on the team. You guys are feeling at least partially confident going into that. But
Yeah.
like, how close are you feeling that game's going to be, if you don't mind?
Like I've said to my team, like it's up to us how close you want to make it, right? If you want to give them maps, we'll give them maps, but it's up to us to, I know we're trying to look for a win. Just do what we practice. Just keep doing what we've been doing, and we'll get there eventually, right? It's just being positive as best we can, and Road Warriors is looking for that, so they're probably going to come into that with the same mentality versus us, since we've only won one more map than they have. So
yeah,
we're both in the same boat, but I believe in us.
Yeah, I think the only reason you guys look further ahead right now is because of your bye from week 2. So yeah, both you guys are like literally one map apart. So yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be an interesting game. Then move on to Fire Nation versus Koala Kings. We all think it's gonna go towards Koala Kings. I don't think there's much to talk about there. So we move on to Odyssey versus Velocity Force. Both of you guys thinking that Odyssey Esports is going to win over Velocity Force. I'm curious why.
Honestly, it's more just a hope. I really want to see. I want to see Odyssey break this whole entire thing and climb to the top when they came in late. And like, not to throw any shade at Velocity Force, like they're a really good team and all, but I want to see Odyssey beat them. I'd like to see them take over the entire thing. I'd like to still win, but at the same time, their whole introduction to this entire thing was just right off the bat a giant kick in the face. They made everyone just respect them, kind of like right when they joined in. And it's not like they came in and like showed so much. It's that they came in with one really, really like strong game that made everyone think there's competition. And
Yeah.
I want them to get up there. So
Yeah, it's a bit wishful thing, but I agree it'd be super exciting. Cool, I'll let you talk. Say.
Yeah, but I just the reason I chose them is just to see what they're actually made of, to see if they can compete at the top, and to see like if they do lose, right, no matter 3-1, 3-2, or 3-0, to see where they actually place, to give like us lower teams hope to see when we play them or make up our match against them, to have hope of winning.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our next matchup, it is Vote Meme today versus Talonfire. Obviously, Dark Ember going with his team. I'm also going to be going that way. Kua going for Vote Meme today. I think that's going to be a really interesting and really close one. It was a bit of a coin flip for me between Talonfire and VMT, but I kind of lean Talonfire because I think if they get to that map 5 situation, which is not unlikely in a close game, I think that Talonfire is going to have more of that endurance to make it through. But I don't know. What's your guys' opinion on that match?
The reason I went VMT is because we played them week 1 and it was 3-0. And when we played Talonfire, we took one of our maps from them, and from personal experience, of course they've gotten better over time, but I feel like it's going to be very close, and I'm just like one of those hopes for VMT to get the dub, to make Talonfire still 5, but to make us lower teams have a chance. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah, VMT, I haven't seen a lot on them, but I know that they've been working really hard. But Townfire, I mean, this is going to be a close match, in my opinion. But Townfire works really, really well under pressure. And I've seen a lot of teams kind of crack under that pressure. So we're hoping to, use that to our advantage a bit and take the win. But, I mean, as Kwa said, or Kua, yeah, we did lose a map to them, and that was mostly because we never play Havana and Kraken Skulls. It looked like they played that map nonstop because they full held us basically the entire time. Their strat was just really, really interesting, and it was a fun match. And I think against VMT, we're gonna have to pull out some different things. We can't just run the same old book every single time.
So what I'm hearing is, if VMT gets map picked, they should choose Havana.
Maybe we have practiced it a couple times ever since we lost that game against Kraken Skulls or that map. And that was mostly because I didn't want Kua to come at me and be like, "Yeah, we beat you again." But we practiced it a bit and we gotten better at it. Definitely, that was one of our weakest maps. Now it's one of our best because of how we've been playing it, especially since it's like one of the most popular matches or maps inside of Quick Play. So we're going into this very confidently, and I give my best of I can't speak, but I hope best of luck to both teams, even if I'm playing on one of them. I mean,
You're like, best of luck to both, but slightly more
Yeah.
to mine.
yeah, hopefully more to mine, but I mean, we'll see,
Cool. And so moving on to day 2 here, we have Black Jackals versus the Road Warriors. Most people generally leaning, or everyone leaning Black Jackals. I don't think that's a really hard pick against a team with one map win. So we're just going to kind of move on past that to Hyperion versus Talonfire. The only person going for Talonfire here is, of course, the person on Talonfire. So I know you were just speaking a whole lot, and we immediately jumped into another one where you should speak, but I guess more on your confidence going into that match.
Yeah, going into Hyperion, we just feel their pressure, and we're hoping that we can just pull it out. But I don't know. They're a very, 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 very strong team, and even if we can at least win one map against them, we'll still feel fulfilled. Like that is just gonna be a hard one.
So it's a bit more one of those wishful thinking predictions. You know, you're trying to have all that confidence going in, being like, yeah, we're gonna win it.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to, drag my team down or myself down, being like, yeah, we lost this one already. We might as well just throw in the towel. No, I wanna keep spirits up on our team. We want to win against them. I think that would be like a really good comeback story. Having to forfeit your first game and then now going against the best team in the league and possibly winning that. That would be interesting. And we hope to take at least one map, and if we can, take the entire thing from Hyperion.
Yeah, I enjoy that confidence. I wish you guys the best of luck in doing that. Moving on to our next game is Odyssey Esports versus Vote Mean today. Everyone going for Odyssey Esports, despite how little we know about this team. All of us agreeing that they're going to win here. I think this can be an interesting one. Again, it's like we don't really know where exactly Odyssey stands once you get above Fire Nation. It's like they 3 out Fire Nations. We know they're good. We just don't know exactly how good yet. So I definitely think Vote Meme today has a chance to win this, but we all seem to agree that Odyssey Esports is looking really good.
Yeah. Again, on that whole thing of Odyssey coming in late into this and just making a really good impression, I want to see them up there.
Yep. Then we have Koala Kings versus Velocity Force. One of the ones we highlight is going to be an interesting game because you have the 2 teams tied at second place right now. I think it's going to go for Velocity Force. You guys think it's going to go for Koala Kings? I don't know. I've seen a lot of really good stuff out of Velocity Force, and I have heard other people say really good stuff about Velocity Force. I haven't heard much chatter on Koala Kings, though. So that's kind of why I leaned more towards Velocity Force. But yeah, I think if Koala Kings came out that win, I wouldn't be too shocked. But it'd definitely be a one I'd want to review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of voted for Koala Kings just because my pal Navino. But at the same time, it's like Velocity Force was really good against us, and I mean, we had to forfeit our game against Koala Kings, so we haven't got to see them play. And I feel like if we did get to actually play against them that time that we had to forfeit, we would definitely have we wouldn't definitely, but we probably could have a different prediction for this. But seeing both them, of course, I wanted to vote for Velocity Force, but I also wanted to vote for Koala Kings. But you can only choose one, so I just flipped the coin and chose Koala Kings because my pal Navino is on there.
Yeah,
and
That's cool.
yeah, I just want to see how this goes. That's one that I actually really want to watch.
yeah. And cool. What are some of your thoughts on that matchup?
I thought like when it came to Call Kings Velocity Force, I felt like consistency is key. Like we hear talk about Velocity Force all the time, and Call Kings is very quiet, but they're very consistent. That's why they're one of the top 3 teams all the time. And when we played them, they showed why. And even though we didn't put the greatest showing, they're still in the top 2, top 3. They're just. I hope this match is to solidify their top 2 standing. They're like we are the second best team under Hyperion.
Yeah. Okay, and our last match here is Kraken Skulls versus the Fire Nation. 2 going for Fire Nation, and Kua, who's on Kraken Skulls, going for Kraken Skulls. So I'll just kind of let you talk a bit more about your thoughts and your team's thoughts going into that matchup.
It's the same as the World Warriors game, but we played against Fire Nation in preseason. We scrimmed against them a couple times, and they're super cool people, and I enjoy playing them all the time. But based off what we've scrimmed against and we played against in the preseason, we've beat them consistently. So I'm just hoping we can do the same on that day, and it's up to us to get that win or lose because they're a really good team, and I feel it's going to be close that day because we're going to be missing a person. So, but I'm really going to enjoy that match because it's kind of like a small rivalry between us, I guess.
Yeah. It wasn't just like teams kind of develop those relationships throughout the season. But I think that covers most of our main talking points for minors. So I'll just say, like, is there anything else you guys want to bring up about like the past week, going to next week? Any other just general thoughts about minors?
If any team can upset Velocity Force, so I can see that and have confidence going into next week, that would be great. That would be fantastic. Please.
Well, Ed, anything from you, Dark Ember?
No, not really. I mean, I'm just excited for tonight and nervous about Sunday, but also very excited for that too.
Also, take a map for them. Beat them, please. Show everybody they're not immortal.
Look, yeah, for everyone out there, no team's immortal. Every team can be beat. They're not all gonna stay at the top. There's got to be a breaking point for someone, and Talonfire will try to show that. We'll try to find that spot.
Yep. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining me, and good luck in your guys' upcoming matches. I know some of you guys kind of need it. So yeah, so good luck there, and I hope you guys do really well coming into this weekend. And so now I'm going to be leaving. You'll not see any more of me on this nest, and we're going to be heading over to Misfit with the Misfit metric to kind of talk about some stats here.
Are we thrown to break, or am I just going?
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nest. It is time for the Misfit Metric, and I am very, very excited to bring this one to you. Last week, we didn't see too much change in the standings between either division, but in this week, we have seen a lot of shakeup in both the Majors and Minors division, so I'm excited to get into it. First things first, let's show off what happened in Majors this week. Once again, as many of you know, this will be posted in season discussions in the Discord server, so if you are not in that, just put something in the Twitch chat, and we will get a mod to send you that Discord link. But yeah, this is kind of just what happened here in Majors. No really big changes, except for the Odyssey versus Tempest game. Tempest 3-0ing Odyssey, which was a rematch of the game earlier this season, where Odyssey did 3-1 Tempest. So a bit of a shakeup there. Odyssey has been dropping in the standings ever since week 2. And now they are dropping in the Misfit metric as well. Something you will notice is that there was a forfeit this week. So Odyssey had to forfeit against Dice Rolls. So neither team gained or lost any SR for that in the Misfit metric. And yeah, so now we will show you a bit more of the change in Majors this week. Show the final metric and the change. Something you'll notice, I put an asterisk by Bench Boys and Dice Rolls. Of course, as it was talked about earlier in the broadcast, our main tank and IGL Milk did go over to Dice Rolls during this weekend. And of course, I can adjust for SR, which I did. You may notice that both Bench Boys and Dice Rolls had different starting SRs compared to last week's ending SRs, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you don't keep up with the Misfit metric as closely as I do, which would make sense. But I did account for that difference in the Misfit metric. I went back and changed the original score, and then I retroactively did the math to get the more accurate numbers. So Dice Rolls now much, much closer to Bench Boys in the final metrics. No change between those two, but Crusaders does move up one spot, gets into that third spot, which, they are in talking points to be the third best team. So we do see that the Misfit metric is correcting itself, and any issues that came with all the SR stuff, it is being changed. How we're weighting the games is changing the standings in the Misfit metric. So I'm really excited about that. Really excited to see some change here. Odyssey drops a spot. Tempest goes up one. Bandicoots drops a spot. Bottom two teams stay like they are. And yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up for the Majors division. Once again, this will be posted in season discussions if you'd like a more comprehensive look. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how this one ends up. Especially with some of the games we got going on this week, the Velocity versus Dice Rolls rematch. I'm really excited to see how much that would shake it up. If Velocity was able to pull that one out, of course, with Milk now being on that Dice Rolls roster, they are that much stronger. I can vouch for how good of a player he is, how good of an IGL he is. So yeah, Dice Rolls definitely looking a lot scarier moving forward in the Majors division. But enough about Majors. Let's get into the Minors division. We saw actually quite a bit of shakeup in the Misfit metric. Only 2 teams stayed in their original spots. But before we get into that, let's show off what happened this week with all the games. A lot of upsets this week. VMT taking a huge hit, losing both their games. First to Velocity Force, and then again to Hyperion, both 3-0, which is really going to drop them down in the Misfit metric. Talonfire also losing a game to Velocity Force. So even though Velocity was, one of the lower teams at the start, they are slowly climbing the bracket and going up farther, which is, on par with how they've been performing in the Minors division, being touted as one of the top 2 teams. So yeah, very, very strong performance there. Other than that, just some miscellaneous games here and there. Most games went how we expected them to go, other than the Velocity Force games. So we get into the change now. Koala Kings actually benefits from this the most, even though they had 2 pretty run-of-the-mill games. They played the 5 seed and the 7 seed and won both their games. Because VMT took such a huge hit, and because Talonfire lost to Velocity Force, they actually jump up 2 spots. So now they are the second best team according to the metric. They will be in that number 2 spot right under Hyperion. Of course, still a very, very big difference in SR. Hyperion now gets into that 3K range, being touted as a diamond team, which is on par with their scrim range. If you remember, they scrim about 3 to 3-2, which is what some major teams are scrimming. So yeah, Hyperion definitely a really, really good team here. Other than that, some miscellaneous movement here. Fire Nation barely retakes the 8 spot over Kraken Skulls with a nice little 3 SR difference. NSBY drops down. Velocity Force moving up after their 2 huge wins, getting much closer to that top bracket. I believe they started in 24, 25 range, and now they're all the way up almost to 2.8. So definitely a lot of movement there. VMT will drop down to 3rd after their 2 losses this week. But yeah, that's about gonna wrap it up for the changes in the metric. If you'd like to see more about this or would like to know how this works, you can just DM me through Discord or anything along those lines. Been really happy to continue to bring this to you guys every week. I've really enjoyed doing all this mathy stuff. It's been a lot of fun. And I look forward to continue doing it. I've got something special in the works for playoffs. I don't know if I'll actually end up using it, but stay tuned for more on that. I would love to be able to make this even better than it is right now. And I look forward to showing you guys more of this stuff. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Nest today. Thank you guys all for coming out. Be sure to check in later for the broadcast. We got plenty of great games for you tonight. That plenty are going to get casted. And I look forward to seeing you guys around.